The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com.
We're very fortunate to be joined by George, who is known as Straight Talk Wrestling on YouTube. Thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Big fan of your content, mate. You're doing amazing.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me, Jordan. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a long grind. It's been a lot of years, but Straight Talk's been around for 8, going on 9 years. It'll be our 9-year anniversary this September, just in literally 6 or 7 weeks. So very proud of everything that we put in. The work started as 3, then it became just me. Then I brought my daughter in, and now my daughter's in high school doing her stuff. So the mini host is not so much around, but she sprinkles herself in every now and again. But yeah, I appreciate that you're a fan of the content. I likewise as well. Once you start connecting on the internet, start connecting on Twitter and stuff, you check out everybody else's channel. I'm a big fan of everything that you're doing, man. You're killing it.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I mean, let's talk about some of the guests. I first came across you from like your channel, I would say like 4, 5, 6 months ago. And I immediately got hooked. And I saw a tweet that you put out that you wanted 4 guests. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jacob Fatu, Eric Bischoff, DDP, and then there was one more.
Sting.
That's it. I know it was just going to roll off the tongue. But you just recently had one of those guests, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I had a couple weeks ago, actually, about a month now, Eric Bischoff. He actually answered the tweet, liked it, slid into my DMs. We started talking, and lo and behold, had him on the show. And it was crazy. As a fan of pro wrestling my entire life, and especially growing up being a teenager during that Attitude Era, period. That whole thing started when I was in grade 8. So grade 8, 9, 10 was kind of filled with everything to do with pro wrestling in my life. And Eric Bischoff was on my screen every Monday. And to see him and be able to talk with him for just over an hour was an incredible experience. I mean, he answered a lot of the questions the way I figured he'd been answered, because I mean, he's done so many interviews, so many conversations where he's literally been asked every question. So it's kind of hard to sit there and figure out, how can I ask Eric Bischoff a different question? So instead of trying to figure that out, I figured out, well, how can I ask him the same questions, but in different ways to maybe get a different perspective? And that video pulled out a lot of different perspectives. We talked about mental health and probably the challenges Sting might have had not being physically in the ring for a whole year in the whole Starrcade incident and what caused the finish. And he said that he had never thought about it from that perspective. So it was pretty cool to get someone who had literally been asked that question a million times to sit there and say, I haven't really thought about it that way. So that was really cool. That was highlight of 2024 for sure. Sitting down with Eric Bischoff, 150%.
Unbelievable. And the video is up on YouTube and it's doing good numbers.
Yeah, it's just actually creeped over 3,600 views. So for me, that's my highest rated video. I've gotten the 500, 600s, 1,000 a couple times, but never over 2,000 or 3,000. So this one did really, really well. And I'm really proud of the interview. And I'm proud that, 3,600 people watched it, liked it enough to check it out. So I appreciate all the love on that video. And I'm very proud of that conversation for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you've had some extraordinary guests on even when you've been to wrestling events and you've pulled them aside and you've done your little couple of minutes, like 10-minute interview with them. Who's been some of your favorites or your highlights?
It's too tough to call because there is so many, but I would say Joey Janela was a surprise to get him on the show. And then I would say as well, Matt Rinwald, who is one of the co-commentators for Impact Wrestling. That was awesome to get. But I mean, just a lot of the Impact people, like there was Josh Alexander just before he got signed. He gave me time at a couple shows, and he's become a really good friend in this business. Someone that I do talk with. I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but we have each other's phone numbers. We'll text each other happy birthday or good luck on your match night and stuff like that. He's definitely been someone who's been instrumental in the growth of Straight Talk Wrestling for sure. And I would say another really amazing bright spot was getting Thunder Rosa right before she got signed with AEW. She was able to get it. I was able to get her. And then when she was with AEW, just in her injury time, my daughter was able to sit down with her. So to get that full circle moment was pretty awesome to see my daughter be able to interview arguably one of the best women in professional wrestling today. So Very
100%, man. What made you get into the business of podcasting, and how did the name Straight Talk Wrestling come about?
Well, it's funny. It's kind of a funny story. Like I said, it started with three. So it was me, my former friend, and his girlfriend at that time, who actually I became friends with after him and our relationship deteriorated. I became friends with her, and now she's actually one of my best friends. She does come on the podcast still to this day here and there. It's my friend Michelle Arujo, call her the voice of reason. But it started with the three of us, and it was just because we were all big wrestling fans, and we would talk about wrestling during the pay-per-views, talk about it during the show, and we would have some great banter. And I'd be like, man, we should just record this. And it'd be like, yeah, we will. And then, a couple weeks would go by, you forget about it. And then you bring up that conversation again. And then one weekend I had enough about just talking about it. I'm like, fuck it. After, I can't remember which pay-per-view it was. I think it might've been SummerSlam or Survivor Series. But I was like, fuck it. We're going downstairs. We're going to do a review show. We're just going to start something. So we started it off the fly, and we called it Real Talk Wrestling at the time. And when I Googled Real Talk Wrestling, just to see if anybody else had it, there was about 20 different versions of that same name. And I was like, okay, well, that's a problem. So then we were kind of putting our brains together, trying to brainstorm a little bit, and we came up with Straight Talk Wrestling because we're very straight up, or we were very straight up in our opinions. We didn't shy away from asking, tough questions of each other, and when we eventually would have guests on and talk because we were talking, and wrestling because we were talking about wrestling. So Straight Talk Wrestling just kind of stuck, and I'm happy to say that I was able to take that brand and grow it to the heights that it's at now. And by any standpoint, it's not like, the biggest success, but it definitely is. I'm proud of the work that's been put in. I mean, 8 years nonstop, week after week, interview after interview, conversation after conversation. And we've been able to grow upwards of close to 500 episodes now, audio wise, and then just over 400 episodes on the video. When I started the video podcast with Lufisto was the first one. That's literally vidcast number 1 to where we are now, with just sitting down with Bronwyn, which dropped today. Bronwyn Billington, daughter of Dynamite Kid. So, who you had on? We share guests. We've had a few guests that we've shared for sure, which has been awesome. But yeah, it's just 8 years of hard work and dedication. There's been a lot of times where I've had setbacks, and I've thought about hanging up the microphone. Maybe I'll just walk away from it. But then it's like, wrestling's like the mafia, man. It pulls you back in. It's just one of those things you can never get away from. Even if you put it away for a little bit, like there was a time where I fell out of wrestling when I was in my older days, in my 20s, but I picked it back up in my late 20s, early 30s, and pretty much been doing the whole podcast thing from all of my 30s into my 40s. I'm going to be 41 this year. So like I said, I started this when I was 32. So yeah, it's been great to see it grow. And just when I sit down and I think about all the people that I've been able to sit down with and the conversations I've had, I'm eternally grateful. But in the same aspect, I don't see myself stopping anytime soon.
Like I said, man, big fan of your content, and 2024, like you mentioned, there's a highlight earlier with Eric Bischoff. She's going to get better and better. The guest is just going to come. Who knows? Maybe DDP will come on.
Maybe. I'm working on it. I got his agent's email, and I keep going back and forth with that. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. But there's some names I still want to track down, and I also want to help as many podcasters as I can, because I know how hard it is to build these relationships. So if there's a chance that I can help somebody in some way, or push somebody's name into a direction, or vouch for someone, I'm absolutely to do that. There's a lot of competition in podcasting, but I think if we all just genuinely kind of work together, share guests when they're available, or share connections, you can grow everybody just a little bit. As much as independent wrestling has been able to work together, share talent across the globe, and now we're seeing the big promotions doing the same thing, why can't podcasters? As much as we all have the same model, yeah, we all talk about wrestling, we interview wrestlers, we could share the talent, we could share the connections that we've made, and say, hey, listen, so-and-so, you sat down with me, I don't know if you remember. Well, yeah, I do. It was a great conversation. Cool. I've got a friend of mine who is doing the same thing, and he's killing it, or she's killing it. And I think that's the best way to go about it. Not to say that every guest is going to say yes, but if you can at least make the introduction and even get a no, because the worst part about it is, I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is being ghosted, man. When you send an email and you get no reply, or you send a response and you get no reply, but they read it, it hurts. It stings. It's like, damn. Or just even getting left unread. And I get it. People are busy. People have lives. And some people just generally don't want to do podcasts. It just, it sucks. Rejection sucks when it happens. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
100%, man. And like you mentioned earlier, the fact that you message them or you reach out and stuff like that, and they say no, it's good because you really want to invest your time into them. And I know they're, like you mentioned, they're very busy people, but just getting that rejection, it's like, come on, just give me a yes or a no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm one of them. This will be my episode 39. I'm doing it slowly but sure, slowly.
Mm-hmm.
But then my aim this year is to have over 60 guests, but it reaches more, then that's brilliant. But one thing what I'm starting to do now is bring, like yourself, different podcasters in. So, which I think that's going to be really amazing. It's like I've been in talks with Muscle Man Malcolm, so that'll be a good one to get because his content is just brilliant as well. And I'm pretty sure that you can vouch for yourself. With some guests that you've had probably this year, like you had PCO, Bronwyn, you've had Eric, just to name a few off the top of my head. Like me, I've had Jacob Fatu. That has been. I typed him in on YouTube earlier, Jacob Fatu interview. That just like, and my video is, going along or going down. It's the 7th one, and that alone to me is like, wow. To look where the guy is now, and I got him pretty much at a right time.
Mm-hmm.
He left MLW. He left MLW 6 days later. I had him on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that's my high, and that's what keeps me going. And that is my highest rated video. That's got over 2,100.
Absolutely. When Jacob was in MLW, because I also have a side podcast called the MLW Rewind. When he was in MLW, we're one of the few podcasts that focuses strictly on MLW. All the MLW content we talk about every episode of Fusion since its return in 2019. We had been a staple for MLW. We're still going strong to this day. But Jacob was a huge impact for us because he would tweet most of our episodes. He would like most of the videos or the conversations that we would talk about, and he even got MLW to sponsor us on one episode, which was incredible. They actually were the sponsor of the episode of MLW Rewind, and that's because Jacob Fatu tweeted a video that we had done and said, MLW got to sponsor these guys. And we knew that his contract was coming up. I just didn't know how quickly it was going to come up from that episode and how quickly he would make a huge impact in WWE. And they're booking him the right way. I love what they're doing. They're making him come in and literally being a monster, just destroying everybody and being good doing it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there a month, I think, today, and he's from the size. He was a big lad. Mm-hmm. He's got so much weight. He looks incredible. They've made him a star, and one of the best. Like I said to you a minute ago, such a huge honor. Just the fact that I've got the chance to interview him. It's like this year alone, I'm a big fan of the Anawaii Fatu family. This year alone, I've interviewed 3, and I'm trying to go through the family. So if that happens,
absolutely, that you could literally do a podcast just on that entire family, from all the lineages, all the different branches that spread off. You can literally do an entire pot. You could just call it the Anawani family and just do a whole string of interviews. It's incredible.
Well, I've had Jacob, I've had Lance, and I've had Elias Smooth, which is Lloyd Anawaii, so that's amazing. Mm-hmm. But hopefully more of them to come. Who have you got planned coming up?
Coming up in the most recent timeline is I've got a few indie stars from Ontario. I'm kind of going back to the indies for a little bit. I always go back and interview any upcoming talents here in Canada. So I've got a few guys lined up. Jax Williams, Dan Paisano, who I've had Dan on the show before, but Jax will be the first one. And then I'm also going to bring Gabriel Fuerza back on the show, who's a very big name over here in Ontario right now. He's got a special event coming up in August here where he's doing a free Palestine show where all the proceeds to the show are going towards the Palestine refugees and helping them out. And then I'm also going to bring on one of my favorite old-time guests, Jan Murphy, who is a reporter for the Toronto newspapers out here, and he covers everything to do with WWE. He's got affiliations with WWE, and he's done upwards of covering 9 WrestleManias. He's covered, I think, 4 or 5 SummerSlams. The guy's a legend, an OG. If you look up Jan Murphy anywhere on Google, he has written so many articles about WWE. He's been in the media scrums after events, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania, all those things. he's very cool. He's one of my favorite guests that I've had on. It'll be my third time having him on, so I'm really excited for that.
Awesome. So we've done the first 6 months, call it 7 months of 2024. Where would you like to see this yourself for the rest of 2024, if you could?
The rest of 2024, I just want to keep grinding. I'm affiliated with 5 promotions, blessed to be affiliated with 5 promotions here in Ontario, where I do commentary for 4 of them. And most recently just got signed up with Pro Wrestling Ontario, where I do backstage interviews now. But Destiny Wrestling, Battle Arts, New Frontier, Frantic Pro, and now Pro Wrestling Ontario have all given me great opportunities to sit down with some incredible names. And I just want to keep having those conversations, being able to keep narrating the amazing matches that I've been able to call, and just would love to get Straight Talk Wrestling to 1,100. I think we can do that. We're at 1016 now. We're 84 away from 1,100. I think that's an easy mark to hit by the end of 2024, for sure.
100%, man. How do you, what's the word I'm looking for? So obviously you've been doing information for 8 years. You know, sometimes you said you thought you like, I just want to recite the mic, I don't want to do this. But how do you, obviously you've got day-to-day jobs, you've got this, you've got that. How do you cope with not burning out and stuff like that?
Coffee, energy drinks, but my wife. My wife has been my rock for 21 years. We've known each other since we were 18. Just before my 19th birthday is when we met. So for literally 21 years, going on 22 years, she has been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest critic, and my biggest support system. And she criticizes me when I'm ready to give up. She's like, you can't do that. That's a stupid decision, because you're good at what you do. Look how far you've come. And it's like, yeah, I'm just so tired of the rejection. She's like, so what? Rejection happens. Rejection's going to continue to happen, but you just got to rise above the rejection. For every no that you get, there's going to be one yes. And then there will be a second yes, and there'll be a third yes, and the guests will keep coming. And she's right. 500 plus conversations, 300 plus video interviews. I mean, that's a lot of yeses. For every no, that's a lot of yeses. So her just keeping things positive. My 2 daughters, who I love, I would kill for them. Yeah, just being a family man and finding the time to balance. Like I said, right after I got home from work, you and I are sitting down. I'm going to go have dinner. I'm going to come down and edit a little bit, go upstairs, watch an hour of TV before I go to bed, and then wake up and do it all over again tomorrow. Burning out is not anything that I worry about much anymore, because every opportunity is special. Every conversation is special, and every chance that I can to talk about wrestling or meet amazing people like yourself. I mean, you and I, we've been DMing on Twitter for the last couple of months, and we've clicked really good. I consider you one of the best fresh faces of 2024 that I met, man. You've been a real genuine human being, and we've helped each other out, and we're going to continue to help each other out. So
appreciate that, man.
Building relationships like this is important. And well, you don't have to appreciate it. It's truth. You're a fantastic guy, man. And your content is killer as well. Me to be on your show, I'm honored. 150%.
Don't be silly.
I'm not. I'm being truthful, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
You're incredible at what you do. And the Jacob Fatu interview, like you said, is one of your highlights. It's one of my highlights. I mean, you got to sit down with Jacob Fatu, and that conversation is amazing. And I've watched that interview a few times, and I'm like, this guy's awesome. So keep doing what you're doing, because 4 years, you're already at 1,000 subscribers. You're going to get more, and you're going to get more, and there's going to be more opportunities. And like I said, we've pointed each other in directions. We're trying to get to share talent. I'm working on something for you. You're working on something for me. I don't want to jinx it, so we're not going to air it out to the public. But when it happens, it'll be special. It'll absolutely be special.
100%. And I'll speak to you about that one after, because I've got some news for you.
Perfect.
But yeah, honestly, man, like I said, big fan of your content and what you've just said, especially hearing feedback from someone else saying that, like you mentioned, you've watched the Jake Fatu video and a few times. The fact that you give feedback and stuff like that, I think feedback is key.
Mm-hmm.
I think every like you get on a video or every comment, I think it goes a long way. Just getting feedback from yourself, who literally, I love your theme of the channel. It's like dark, but then you're a bubbly character. Do you know what I mean? It's like some of your thumbnails. You got yourself like against a wall. You got the wrestlers. It's like You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
but you're just like a bubbly guy. That I like that. I like a YouTube channel that's got, well, a podcast, but the channel, I like it that's got a theme to it. And yours, every video, it's the same one, but obviously different wrestlers, and it's got a theme to it, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. I really do. And I wasn't always a bubbly guy. Talking about wrestling is easy, but I tell you the truth, and I even tell some of my guests this: the person that you're speaking with now, the person that you see on screen now, the last 4 or 5 years, wasn't the same person 6, 7 years ago. I went through a whole lot of growing and evolving as a person. Therapy, which made me a better human, made me a better father, a better husband, a better all-around individual. And the growth that I've experienced in myself, I put towards my channel, to the conversations, to just growing and being the best version of myself. So that's what's been huge. I appreciate the bubbliness, but believe me, like I said, if you met me 5 years ago, different person. That person is a distant memory from the man I am today, which I'm very proud of that.
So if I could ask you, what is 3 things that you are grateful for in your life right now?
3 things that I'm grateful for?
Mm-hmm.
My family, wrestling literally saved my life, both of them, and my health. I'm happy that I'm healthy. I am, I'm not the greatest eater. I got some things I can work on for sure. I love my McDonald's, that's for sure. But I'm happy for the fact that this year I quit smoking. This year I slowed down on, the social drinking. Even kind of slow down on the weed a little bit, which I was doing a lot of there for a little bit, and walking more, going outside more, stretching my legs more. But also, I'm just grateful for my family, pro wrestling, and health. I think those are 3 key factors.
Yeah, that amazing. We talking about Rushmore professional wrestling?
Ooh, that's a tough question. But I would have to say, my Mount Rushmore has changed in wrestling so many times, but I would have to say I would put up on my Mount Rushmore now, going through, there's 2 names that never change, which is Sting and Triple H. Those were always my guys. And I wasn't a Triple H guy from when he DX or anything like that. I was a Triple H guy from Terror Rising. I knew him in WCW, and then when he got signed, I was like, yes, this I got to see what they do with him, and they did him right. But Triple H for sure, Sting. I've grown to respect him a lot recently from his AEW run and his WWE run. I know he didn't leave on the best of terms, but I will say this current version of CM Punk, from AEW to the falling out with AEW to being back in WWE, I've really enjoyed what he's done. So I would put him up on there for sure. This one may surprise a lot of people, but Pat Patterson, he was the first, inaugural Intercontinental Champion. He came up with the Royal Rumble. A lot of people may not know that. They would from the DVD, but the Royal Rumble was designed by Pat Patterson and was his idea. And to round out number 5, I'd have to say, got to give it to a fellow Scotsman because I am half Scottish. But Drew McIntyre. Again, this version of Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway, from when he left WWE to being back in WWE now, this version is the best Drew McIntyre that I've ever seen.
Awesome. That is really good list. Really good list. You know what? Some of the names I didn't expect. I didn't expect to put Punk and McIntyre on, when the rivalry is going at the moment.
For sure. But I feel like they're bringing out the best in each other, and in turn bringing out the best versions of themselves. And you look at Punk now, being back in WWE, he's happy. When he was at AEW, did he do everything right? No. Will we ever really know what truly happened with him and Jack Perry? No. We've heard multiple versions of the story, but there's always 3 versions of every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And I feel like it's been dissected forever, so let's just bury it. But this version of CM Punk right now, the promos that he's cutting, the things that he's doing, is he the best in the ring? No. Has he lost a step or 2? For sure. Is he a little bit more fragile? Of course, he's older, but he's still entertaining. And Drew McIntyre, heel or face, there's just something about Drew McIntyre that you just want to, he just makes me want to cheer for him. And not because I'm biased, because I'm half Scottish. No, that does help for sure, but it's not always the case. But yeah, for me, I think those two are bringing out the best in each other right now, and it's exciting to see. Really is exciting to see.
100%. Honestly, man, thank you for coming on. I do appreciate it. I know you're a very busy man. You've got come on from weight just straight on, so I do appreciate that a hell of a lot. Nice to actually finally get down and speak to you.
No problem. I appreciate you having me on.
Definitely, man. Where can people find you?
Straight Talk Wrestling everywhere. At _Straight Talk on Twitter, Straight Talk Wrestling on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And you can find me Straight Talk Wrestling on all audio podcast platforms. But if you do stumble across the YouTube page, hit that subscribe button. 1016 going towards 1100 by the end of the year. I think it's completely doable. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I really do appreciate it.
So, man, thank you for coming on. Have a good evening.
Take care.